Fear of failure. It's the invisible chain that holds you back from taking that leap, from pursuing your dreams, from becoming who you're meant to be. Think about it. How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers because you were afraid to fail? How many ideas have you buried because you couldn't bear the thought of them not succeeding? Today we're breaking those chains. I'm going to show you how to transform your fear of failure into a powerful catalyst for growth. By the end of this video, you'll see failure not as your enemy, but as your greatest teacher. Are you ready to reclaim your power? We all experience fear of failure, but have you ever wondered where it comes from? This fear isn't random. It's deeply embedded in our evolutionary history. Our ancestors lived in tribal societies where rejection meant isolation, and isolation often meant death. Their brains evolved to avoid social disapproval at all costs. That same ancient wiring still operates in your brain today. But there's more to it than just biology. As children, we learn to associate failure with pain. Maybe you were mocked by classmates when you gave a wrong answer. Perhaps you faced criticism when you didn't meet someone's expectations. These experiences create neural pathways that automatically trigger anxiety when we face potential failure. It's not your fault. It's how your brain was programmed. What's fascinating is that this fear often has nothing to do with the failure itself. It's about what we think failure says about us. I failed, therefore I am a failure. This false equation creates a threat to our very identity, making the stakes impossibly high for every endeavor. Let me ask you something. What's the price you're paying to avoid failure? We tend to focus on the potential pain of failing, but rarely consider the guaranteed suffering that comes from playing it safe. When you avoid taking risks, you sacrifice growth. Think about it. Have you ever mastered anything significant without stumbling along the way? Learning to walk, ride a bike, speak a new language? All of these required multiple attempts and failures. By avoiding failure, you're actually avoiding the very process that leads to mastery. There's also a psychological toll that comes with living in the safe zone. Research shows that regret over inaction is far more intense and long-lasting than regret over action. In a landmark study of elderly individuals, the most common regret wasn't mistakes they made, but opportunities they never pursued. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This was the most common regret of the dying. Perhaps most costly is the relationship you develop with yourself when you consistently choose safety over possibility. Each time you back away from a challenge, you send yourself a powerful message. I don't believe in my ability to handle failure. Over time, this erodes your self-trust and shrinks your sense of what's possible for your life. What if I told you that failure doesn't actually exist? What if it's just a label we've attached to certain outcomes? The most successful people in history understood something crucial. There is no failure, only feedback. Thomas Edison famously said after thousands of unsuccessful attempts at creating the light bulb, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Each failure provided valuable data that moved him closer to his goal. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a radical shift in how we process experience. When you reframe failure as feedback, you transform it from an emotional catastrophe into useful information. Imagine you're navigating a dark room. Each time you bump into something, you gain knowledge about the layout. You wouldn't think, "I'm a failure at walking through this room." You'd think, "Now I know there's something there, and I can adjust my path." This reframing isn't just psychological, it creates tangible changes in your brain. Neuroscience shows that when we view challenges as opportunities to learn, rather than threats to our identity, we activate different neural networks. Instead of triggering the amygdala's threat response, we engage the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for learning, creativity, and growth. Now that we understand the psychology behind fear of failure, let's develop practical strategies to build your failure resilience. Your ability to bounce back stronger after setbacks. First, practice intentional small failures. Just as a vaccine works by introducing a small amount of a pathogen to build immunity, you can become more resilient by deliberately seeking small, controlled failures. Start a conversation with a stranger knowing it might be awkward. Submit that article knowing it might be rejected. Each small risk builds your failure immunity. Second, create a failure resume. Most of us only document our successes, but the most growth comes from our setbacks. Write down your biggest failures, what you learned from them, and how they ultimately benefited you. This practice trains your brain to automatically look for the gift in every failure. Third, develop a pre-failure ritual. Elite athletes visualize their response to setbacks before they occur. Before taking a risk, ask yourself, what will I do if this doesn't work out? Having a plan reduces uncertainty and anxiety. You might decide that if your business idea fails, you'll take the skills you learned and apply them to a more promising venture. Now the failure has a purpose. Finally, surround yourself with failure-positive people. We're profoundly influenced by our social environment. Seek out friends who celebrate brave attempts rather than just successful outcomes. Share your failures openly and create space for others to do the same. The ability to say, I failed and here's what I learned, is a mark of true confidence. So where do we go from here? The journey from fear to freedom begins with a single step. Tonight, I want you to take just one small risk, something that makes you slightly uncomfortable, but isn't devastating if it doesn't work out. Maybe it's pitching that idea in your team meeting, starting that conversation, or finally signing up for that class you've been eyeing. Remember, your relationship with failure defines the boundaries of your life. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you expand those boundaries. Every time you extract wisdom from a setback, you transform what could have been merely pain into valuable growth. The greatest tragedy isn't failure, it's the unlived life. It's the dreams left unpursued, the gifts left unshared, the person you could become remaining just a possibility. As Theodore Roosevelt so eloquently put it, it is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. I want to see you in that arena. I want to see you daring greatly. And yes, sometimes falling, but always, always rising again. Because that's where life's richness truly lies. Not in avoiding failure, but in engaging fully with all that life has to offer. If this video resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need this message. And let me know in the comments about a time when a failure ultimately led to something beautiful in your life. Let's create a community that celebrates brave attempts and views failure not as the end, but as part of the journey. Until next time, remember, on the other side of your fear lies everything you want.